Hello everyone, I'm Luis Cruz, Community and Public Relations Director at the San Diego Union-Tribune. Welcome to today's San Diego Business Connection Seminar. Our guest today is John Hakel, Executive Director of Rebuild SoCal Partnership. John, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Luis. Happy to be here.
It's great to have you. All right, before we get started, I want to remind the audience that this is an interactive seminar, so if you have questions, please put them in the Q&A field in the lower right-hand portion of the toolbar, and we'll do our best to address them. Let's kick off today's discussion with a few questions for John. John, can you start us off by telling us about Rebuild SoCal Partnership?
Love to, Luis. Yeah, let me step back a bit. We were actually established in September of 2014 under the name of Southern California Partnership for Jobs. At that moment, the founding fathers, i.e. AGC of California, AGC San Diego, Southern California BIA, the Engineering Contractors Association, Southern California Contractors Association, Southwest Regional Council of Carpenters, Southern California District of Laborers, and the International Union of Operating Engineers Local 12, and just a minor part, 2,750 contractors got together and said, we need to find a better voice to work with the continuing opportunity to fund critically needed projects. Luis, at the time, there was just no real understanding from Sacramento on a constant flow of money to make sure that these bridges, roads, whatever, that are in dire need of repair get repaired. So it came upon those founding fathers to say, let's put together some sort of mechanism to educate the public and public officials on the need for continuous educational funding. 2014 till the beginning of this year, our growth, our opportunities to do things has just exploded. Now, not only are we into infrastructure, but now we're into water quality projects and even into some unique environmental set-asides. So given that our platform is so much more larger than it was, and that we are really rebuilding all of Southern California, we decided to do kind of a name change, and this is how we come up with Rebuild SoCal. Okay.
Interesting bit of history there. Tell us about your involvement with the passage of Senate Bill 1, also known as the gas tax.
Sure. When this first came out and we had heard that there's an opportunity by the legislature to actually come up with some funding mechanisms, the trustees and the contractors got together as a solid voice. We were behind a statewide campaign to make sure, again, educating the public and the public officials on the need to make this happen. Luis, I've been in this business a long time, but I have never, ever seen the culmination of a single voice to make sure that we finally have some sort of annual mechanism to help go after, like I said, the roads and bridges that are in dire repair. We raised $46 million in order to educate, and that's what we did. And since then, we have been part of an ongoing working relationship with the CTC, which is the California Transportation Commission, who then are looking at projects, whether they're from San Diego or Fresno or Sacramento. These folks look at what are really needed projects to get them out of an F grade to a B or an A grade, and that's what we've been doing. This has been really a kind of a labor of love. It has allowed certainly the cities, the counties, and Caltrans to really look at areas that are really in need of processing, and that's what we've been doing.
How are SB1 funds being used to fund construction in San Diego?
Well, I think that's a great question. You have numerous projects that are out there. I mean, you want to look at NAV, like the NAV War one is something that we've been working with Sandag to kind of assist in that process to help make sure that this fantastic, massive transportation entity gets up and off the ground. It will be really a time saver and environmental upside if you can come up with a transportation hub of that magnitude. So we've been working with that. Also, we're working at the Otay Mesa actual construction project. We're looking at LoSAN, the intermodal improvement program, and then also the Media Road additional lane process. And there are others. I believe if we can, not only are we thrilled to be working with this, we thought the public should see the money that they've been allocating to make it work. So I believe you'd be able to see one of the SB1 funds that that we worked on a truly collaborative approach on making things work.
All right, John, we do have a video that people can watch. So if we can get ready to play that, we'll take a look and then continue our discussion right after that.
Thank you.
So the North Coast Corridor is a unique program that combines improvements to highway, the local streets adjacent to the highway, railroad, lagoon restoration program, as well as constructing pathways for pedestrians as well as bikeways here in North San Diego County.
We needed to have a way to engage with the infrastructure. And so we married these two concepts of enhancing our transportation corridors and our ecological systems.
First, it's just like a painting, it's all plain, and then just piece by piece from the ground up, it just becomes something just like every day. It's just like, wow, we're creating something really amazing for California.
We call it the perfume bottle bridge because it has a lot of angles and everything. I'm a union operator. We are the most qualified, most skilled in Southern California. Anybody who wants to get a job done goes union.
Driving through this area, we really need to relieve some traffic. I love being able to help out our community, and I'm sure everybody that lives around here is going to love it.
Being in the military and working as a carpenter, there's a lot of comparisons. You always look out for the guy next to you and you hold everyone accountable.
This job site is your tax dollars at work. Our hard work is your hard work. It's a win-win all around.
Working with Caltrans and Sandag on this project has been great because the relationship has allowed us to really work together to solve challenges efficiently and in a manner that keeps the work progressing out in the field.
The productivity of a wetland rivals a rainforest. Really what I see as a result of this project in the end is a transportation corridor that's looking forward, improving environment, improving transportation, as we've shown that those two things aren't necessarily opposing. They can work together.
The inclusion of SB1 funds allowed Caltrans to include congestion relief into the project. And that's obviously very important given our traffic situation here in North County.
Oh gosh, I'm gonna be very overwhelmed knowing that, I participated. It's like my sweat kind of runs on this road now, along with many other coworkers.
It's pretty cool to see a behind-the-scenes look at all the work being done there in the North County. We want to thank them for all their hard work. John, you were talking about. Do you want to add anything more about that North County project? I know that you were also talking about the Navward Transit Hub.
Right. Well, let me kind of dovetail the both. I think it's important that these types of projects are just kind of a snippet of the thousands of projects that are ongoing. This money, quite candidly, is $5 billion a year just to rehab so many things, and to take this particular project to marry up the three things that are most important: traffic flow, environmentals, and then making sure that when it's built, it is as safely as you can possibly make it. I think it's important too that when you see these films, and if you go onto our website, I know we're going to talk about that at the end, what you will see are the opportunities for folks to have good careers, good working careers. There will be numerous opportunities in 2021 as we, let's say, dig our way out of this pandemic. Historically, the construction industry has been the Kickstarter to make sure that we get back up and running, allowing so many folks to find good paying careers. And I think it's just What you just saw there are generational folks who have a mindset to make sure that whatever is needed to get built is built and built safely. If I just want to, again, kind of go back to Navwar, that project in and of itself, what's it? I think it's $3.8 to $4.7 billion project. That will allow, again, a cleaner understanding of transit, a cleaner understanding of getting cars off of freeway systems. But again, giving that process and project, you're probably looking at an additional 16,000 jobs in your San Diego area, which again, helping our state to recover from what we're going through. The timing couldn't be better. The project has done its useful work. They are going through as many environmental processes as they need to go through to make sure it meets those standards. So in the end, Luis, this is going to be a win-win, and we're thrilled again to be part of that type of process.
That's great. All right, I just want to remind the audience that if they have questions, to go ahead and put them in the Q&A field, and we'll try to get to them. John, how has COVID-19 impacted construction here in San Diego and throughout Southern California?
Another great question, Luis. Our world really came to a screeching halt in March. I'm not sure exactly how the industry was going to deal with it. Having the governor come out and saying the industry still needs to be up and running. We still need to take care of these critical projects. So I give major kudos to the unions and the contractor community who sat down and figured out, how can we have a safe job site? How are we going to have productivity? What do we need to make sure in the long run that workers' health is number one? Well, they've done it. They have done it successfully. They have figured out how to work in these distances, how to mask up, how to schedule jobs that will, if they can, reduce the amount of what you call clutter onto a job site. They've done it, and I cannot tell you how excited we are to go out and film some of these job sites, and you'll see it firsthand on how they've had to maybe change their own processes, but to make it number one job site safety for all of their workers.
I understand you've also launched a new podcast called the Rebuild SoCal Zone podcast. Talk a little bit about that.
Sure. A few months ago, I came to my staff and said, upon looking at all of our other media processes, which I'm thrilled at, we are doing a fantastic job of getting our word out, because we're hearing more and more from the public, which we want, and more from the elected officials on these types of stories that we're telling and action items that we're following up on. So I said, why don't we maybe try a podcast? And of course, they looked at me thinking I fell down somewhere during a pandemic. But they thought about it and they agreed to the process. We're really new into it. We have like 4 podcasts under our belt. But even those, Luis, the number of items that we're going to be able to tackle, the folks that we have lined up to talk about our industry from a more personal point of view, not bricks and mortar, but it's coming along well. I'm really proud of it. We're on Spotify and YouTube, and so for us, it's birthing a new baby, but we're thrilled with it.
Is there a frequency? When can we expect it? How often does it come out?
Sure. Well, when we started this out, it was going to be a monthly. It was going to be the first Wednesday of every month. We may look at revising that in January to a couple times a month, only because of what we're now seeing, the market that we're penetrating. Maybe it would allow us to come back a couple times a month with really good speakers and really good topics. But currently it's the first Wednesday of every month.
Great. Why do you believe that now is the right time to launch this podcast?
Well, I think it's because there is an ample opportunity for people who may have, I don't want to say more time on their hands, but allow the creativity, if they're in the car, if they're at home, to take a moment and hear something different. Here's what the industry is doing. I don't think there are many out there that are doing this, and not to the magnitude that we're trying to do it, but it brings a more personal level to the construction industry. We all drive the roads, Luis, and every once in a while you're just really not happy with those contractors taking 4 lanes down to 1. I get it, they get it, but in the end, if you really find out what this all means, just like that film showed you, that there is always a tremendous upside to these types of projects and to the men and women that work in these, and we just think now is the good time.
Yeah. What other sort of topics and personalities will be featured in this podcast?
Well, we had just a couple months ago on our first one, we had a national economist that came on, kind of gave a different point of view from a V to a U economy and what he perceives, and then broke it down into our industry and what he's perceiving in 21, 22, and 23. A good one that we had, and I'll get to the other two that we've already are coming up with, but we had a great breakdown of our trustees from a human perspective. They came on, talked about why they're a contractor, came on why they're working with a certain union, and what the upside is of all that process. In the future, we're going to have some state legislators who are working feverishly, I hope, on trying to come up with a budget. We're going to peek into their world on what they believe the state will look like, and then what it'll look like for transportation projects. We also have a congressperson lined up to kind of tell us, will there be any stimulus money? If there is, what is it, where is it, and where is it aimed for? So those are just a couple budgetary things that we know our industry wants to get a flavor of. So as they look at their business plan, they have maybe an opportunity to look and see where they may want to put their man hours in 2021.
All right. So where can people find and subscribe to the podcast?
Well, I think it's going to be shown right now.
I understand it's available wherever you get your podcasts.
Right. So. It's good. Well, it's certainly Spotify and YouTube, certainly go onto our own website. There it is. Okay, Rebuild SoCal Partnership, and you'll see it right there. I think it's being posted.
Yes. So there in the chat box, if people want to get the download link from Spotify for the Rebuild SoCal Partnership podcast, you can find it there. It's the Rebuild SoCal Zone podcast.
Right.
So let's take some questions from the audience if we have any. I know one of the questions that came in was, how does the partnership work with hiring people for project opportunities?
That's a good question. And quite candidly, when we first started out with the Partnership for Jobs, we had to do some actual explaining that we weren't kind of a hiring hall. We were more of an educational component. But for those people that would like to know more about this, they can come to our website and we can direct them on where they should look at. I think it really depends on what do they want. Is it, are they looking to try to find a union career? Are they looking at trying to maybe talk to a local contractor in San Diego? We can help with that, but we personally do not do any hiring, but we're glad to help them find a very satisfying career.
And for those interested in learning more about that, you can click on the link that was just posted in the chat box, rebuildsocal.org/initiatives, and you can see the rest of the link there on the chat box. So, John, is there anything else you would like to add?
Well, first of all, I can't thank you folks enough for allowing us to be part of your podcast. Certainly, when I let our trustees know what we were doing, it only brings a smile to their face that we do have an opportunity to reach out and talk about our mission. And this type of opportunity, Luis, is only ingratiating what we believe of what we're trying to offer, and any way that we can out there talking about the partnership and rebuild and careers, we love it. We absolutely love this type of process.
Let's see, William Baxter in the chat box says, sometime I'd like to hear about your project management practices.
Yeah, it's again, let me reemphasize that the way we are structured, we really are more of an educational process. I mean, I have a great staff, and we can kind of tell you what we're doing, but we're not purely in the contractor world. We're not set up to bid on projects. We're not set up to build projects. We are built for truly a way to let the public know and let the public see that their tax dollars are being used and used wisely. So I think, again, if they feel they want to contact our office, I can help direct them again to folks that maybe can get a better clarification of what they want.
All right. And again, if people have more questions, they can put them in the Q&A field, and we'll try to get to them. John, so tell me a little bit again about Rebuild SoCal Partnership for those folks that just tuned in and maybe tuned in a little bit late. Give us a little bit of background on Rebuild SoCal Partnership and what your mission is.
Sure. The mission statement is to educate the public and the public officials on the continuous need of infrastructure funding. And when I say that, I think we need to broaden that horizon. It's roads and bridges, it's airports, it's dams, it's waterways, anything that under the guise of infrastructure, we are there to let everyone know the need to make sure that these structures either need to be rehabbed or torn down and rebuilt, so Southern California in and of itself can go back to a process that makes their roads, bridges, highways, airports, whatever, the #1 in the actual country. There's a lot of work that needs to get done. I'm sure, Luis, you've been under some overpasses and looked up and saw, built in 1947. I thank God they're still up, but I always worry, is today the day that they won't stay up? So it is the need for us to never get off the gas pedal, to make these bridges and roads. The school buses go over a 1947 bridge. I'm happy that they get across. So our goal is to make sure that we don't have to worry about that, and that we can point the public officials in the right way to spend their transportation dollars wisely.
Right, right. Well, I mean, not only do we have to worry about the age of some of the infrastructure, but we also live in earthquake country, so there's that.
And that's a great point. I just want to go back and when public agencies, whether they be SANDAG or OCTA or whoever else, those folks in that room work with general contractors when they develop these plans. This is not just, well, what can you do? They really are looking at what is the best structural road, bridge, whatever, that we can build to that issue. Can it withstand an X earthquake? And there are some really unique engineers and designers that have come up with some really flexible bridges that can take that hit. I know we work with Metrolink and Metro and some of the folks too on how they can maintain their trains if a quake hits. How do we build that structure so the train in himself won't have a problem? So there's a lot of great things out there.
How big is the region that you're responsible for?
Sure. Bakersfield to San Diego County.
Okay. All right. Well, that's a big stretch.
Yes, it is.
So, looking forward to the podcast to obviously learn more. We always want to know how our tax dollars are being spent and what's going on when some of those lanes are closed.
So true.
Anything else you'd like to add, John?
Actually, no. I think we've covered it, and thank you again for allowing the public to dial in. If they have additional questions, you know where to find us. And maybe next year sometime, Luis, when it fits, we'd like to come back and give you an update. Actually,
someone got in just in the nick of time. What are the plans for our train and rail systems in the next 5 years? And maybe you can touch on public transportation?
Sure. Let me at least give you what, there are master plans, and Sandag has a master plan. Other transit agencies have master plans. A lot of them have to do with either updating the current rail structure, or what can we do to marry the transit structure next to an easy possibility for the public to get on trains. There is some of that on maybe looking at additional stops or areas to where it'd be easier for the person to get out of their car and into a train. I do know that the state of California is looking at funding mechanisms. I know we still have the train from Los Angeles, San Francisco. That's still on the books. But we're also looking at federal transportation money. There are some discussions currently going on in Congress on putting money into a stimulus package, Luis, and to look at additional transit opportunities. I believe those are coming. I think people are getting used to now maybe looking at transit in a different light than cars. So there is a global plan for the state of California. Just all agencies have to kind of align themselves to use whatever dollars they may find to make it logical for a rider to get from point A to point B.
All right. Let's see. There's another quick question here. How did you get into this field? Viewer says Rebuild SoCal is doing great work, and they've learned a lot today.
Yeah, that's a good question. In my first career, this is my second career. In my first career, I worked for a group called the Associated General Contractors of California. They're another industry trade group, like we had mentioned earlier, like AGC of San Diego. And I did that for numerous years, and I was about to retire. And some of the trustees who knew me said, hey, we're about to start this, and honest to God, we don't know what's going to fly. Would you be willing to step up and try it? And actually, Luis, we had one little room in one little building with one desk, and I said the second day, I have no clue if this is going to fly, but here we are. It has grown by leaps and bounds, but it would not have grown without tremendous leadership from our trustees and a staff who, quite candidly, have stepped up not only pre-post-pandemic virus, but since then. The things that we've been able to accomplish in our bunkers, for lack of better words, it's just been remarkable. And the return on investment, again, from the folks that we wanted to get to has just been very rewarding. And we look forward to next year and the years beyond.
John, thank you so much for keeping us informed. Once again, the podcast is titled the Rebuild SoCal Zone podcast. It's available wherever you get your podcast. Thank you, John Hakel, Executive Director of Rebuild SoCal Partnership. We appreciate your time and expertise.
Thanks, Luis.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you to everyone who joined us this morning. This business webinar will be available on the Union-Tribune's YouTube channel under the San Diego Business Connection Seminars playlist. Thank you again for joining us. Have a great day, everybody.